then obviously the pandemic hit in March, and then I was like, oh, well, there goes that idea, and I'm not going to launch the album until I can tour.
So honestly, with me, you know the face. I don't even need to introduce him. But Kahn Morbee, part of the Parlotones, new album out as Kahn. Hello, welcome to my house in Brackpan.
Cool. Hello, welcome to my house in Amstelveen.
Nice. I see a studio situation, good lighting.
Yeah. No, it's great. Yeah.
Wardrobe, like you have it all covered.
Yeah. Wardrobe actually acts as a good sort of sound absorber.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's why I have 6 dogs. Same thing.
Yeah, exactly. And backing vocals.
And backing vocals. And also there's like ambient noise of like footprints, like footsteps.
Oh, yeah, that's percussion.
There we go. It's like ASMR for music. Kahn, thank you for joining me today. Okay, so new album, you're in a different country, but I've got to ask you obviously it's topical at the moment. You have also weathered the storms of a global pandemic in different countries. How has it been?
Look, I think I can speak on behalf of most musicians and artists. It hasn't been plain sailing, and I think it's something that none of us, although in hindsight, we should have expected it because there's been sort of warning bells over the last sort of decade, but none of us did anticipate it, and none of us, I think, anticipated that it would be this protracted. So I think what's been difficult for us is every time we kind of thought we were seeing some light at the end of the tunnel, we would plan our usual vibes with tours and stuff, only to kind of be met with wave 2, and then obviously that dissipated, and obviously we got back onto planning our vibes again, and then a wave 3 hit. So it hasn't been a pleasant journey, and most musicians are, I guess, what you call in the business world client facing. So that is the way we generate our revenue, and that means that most of us over the last 18 months haven't really been able to earn money. So look, it's not all bad. I guess in times of chaos we can be more creative, or we can work on our craft and our skills. But as these things do, and as it will, they do pass, and it will seem like a distant memory, not too far from now.
How has it changed music for you? Writing, recording, all of that. Has it changed it for you?
Not really. Here I can't speak for other creatives, but for me, I'm not one of those guys that needs to be in a Zen mode or stimulated by exterior elements in order to be able to be creative. Creative sparks happen all the time. Sometimes you document just a verse or a chorus or a lyric or a chord progression, and they're all there. They're all in this sort of storage box, and then when it's time to kind of create a full project, whether it's a song or an album, then you kind of take them all out. In some regard, obviously we're not isolated living on islands. Your lyrical content and potentially even the way you sonically treat it might be affected by what's happening around you, and to you. Whatever's happening around you, you're also a part of it. It also will impact you, and that might affect the lyrical and content and even the sound. But it's never really a conscious thing. I think it's just it's kind of what happens almost organically.
I was just going to say, I feel like that's very organic, and I feel like that will happen to people, pandemic or no pandemic. Like as you grow and change, surely as an artist you grow and change as well.
Yes,
And
well, that's the dream, right? Or we hope.
well, I mean, I've like
Yeah.
you've been around for a really long time. Like you're one of the most well-known, most prolific artists in South Africa and the world. I mean, you guys do world tours all the time. And you've definitely like if I think of the albums where I discovered you guys, the Parlotones, and your sound now, there's definitely a growth. And it's cool because we're almost all at the same age now where we've kind of grown together. And as you've grown, we've grown. And it's very cool that like you can music spans generations because kids are discovering old Parlotones now and it's still cool and still relevant. But where you are now is years away, worlds away from where you were then. Um, and countries away. Why the move, Kahn? Why did you abandon us?
No, Steph, I definitely haven't abandoned South Africa. It's still home. But yeah, my wife, it's had a good career sort of move opportunity, and my career was pretty meh for the last 18 months. And also, even when it picks up, my what I do, the zip code is irrelevant. We're always touring in different parts of the world, as you've said, and even prior to the pandemic, the way we wrote music and created music was almost in a remote kind of environment because we all have the software and we all have the sort of computer gear to kind of document our ideas, and each of us can live with that idea or that concept at home, in our little home studios for a while
Yeah.
and embellish on it, and then at some stage, yes, we can all get together in a studio, but that is how music is created these days anyway. Yeah, so you're not tethered to a zip code.
Tell me about the new album, A World at Suicide. I'm here for the name, but I feel like it might be a bit dark. Is it a dark album?
Well, I mean, there's always an element of melancholic, and in what I think it's a lyric of mine, but in order to appreciate the sweet things in life, we need to experience the bitter, and it is a part of the journey. The human journey is fraught with obstacles and hurdles, um, but that makes it interesting, and it makes us, when the good times do happen, we appreciate them and we're grateful for them. Yeah, so it's kind of that the title of the album is taken from a song lyric and the song title, "The World to a Side," but the sort of essence of that song is the world since the dawn of civilization has always kind of oscillated between chaos and calmness. We're either trying to kill each other or the planet. And yeah, and I think if we just approach our misunderstandings or our differences, from a point of kindness, because that's how the lyric ends. You got to be kind in a world when a world is suicide. You got to be kind. Yeah, if we just kind of keep that front of mind, yeah, I think possibly we could navigate the times of chaos with a bit more finesse, than this angry emotion. So I mean, as much as I might touch on the melancholic, it's always married with hope and the fact that there is a lot to be appreciative of, and just the fact that we get to have this human journey that and we're blessed with consciousness. Even that in itself is amazing, considering we're this little speck in this vast expanding universe. So I'm very appreciative of it, but I'm also very aware, and I'm just really an observant that we are quite capable of magic and beauty and all of that jazz, but we are also capable of some horrible stuff.
Distraction and all of the ugly stuff. This album, how did it come about? How do you select songs? Because I can imagine someone like you must have many, many songs on folders that you haven't used yet. Do you start an album maybe revisiting some of those? Do you start an album completely fresh? How do you decide what goes on it and what doesn't?
Yeah, I think normally it's a case of I'm gonna put these 6 ideas towards this album. Sometimes I have the whole album already done, but in this instance, it was like let's start the process. I've got these sort of 6 songs floating around. I worked with obviously a producer, and then in the process of kind of documenting those songs, new songs actually sort of start popping, or I start creating new songs in that process, and almost forget the ones that I have in storage facility. And yeah, so you kind of, and maybe that's because of you feel like the journey that the album is going on. This new song that you have might add more dynamic. Sometimes they're all kind of going on the same trajectory, and you want to bring something different to it, so it doesn't become a snooze fest. Although the critics would disagree with that. It's always a snooze fest. But yeah, so I guess, I guess you kind of, it's both a planned thing because you have some ideas in the bank, but some of it is also as the journey unfolds. And specifically with this one, I'd finished recording the album already in January of 2020,
Okay.
with the intention of, sort of touring it in June. And I was going to have this rollout plan and go and you generally, that was the old way. It was kind of, as you launched an album, you would tour it.
Yep.
And this is my new stuff. It's what it sounds like live, and everyone would be aware, and you'd get your 5 streams and your 66 cents, and do it all over again. But yeah, so then obviously the pandemic hits in March, and then I was like, oh, well, there goes that idea, and I'm not going to launch the album until I can tour. But don't worry, this thing's going away in 3 months, and then I can tour. Don't worry, so that never happened, and then I ended up immigrating, and I was like, well, I'm not going to do a tour anyway, and I have no idea when that might materialize, so let me just release it. But in that time, when the initial pandemic hit, I did fiddle with lyrics, and I fiddled with some sonic stuff. I changed some of the lyrics to kind of reflect, the context that the world was going through. So yeah, you kind of, like I sort of alluded to earlier, all these things that happen do somehow, organically or naturally leak into what you create.
Yeah.
But eventually you need to document it and say, all right, cool, it's ready now. It's never really ready, but it's ready.
I was just going to say, is it ever really ready? Because I don't feel like it's ever really ready.
No. But I mean, it's just important to go, that's where I'm at this stage, and release it. Otherwise you run the risk of doing what Axl Rose did when it took him 10 years to record Chinese Democracy. And by the time he released it, it sounded dated, it almost sounded stale, because I think it just spent so much time tinkering on it. I mean, in fact, his session musos ended up starting another band, Perfect Circle. So in the 10 years, yeah. So yeah, and yeah. Look, it's never going to be perfect, and I think most musicians and artists or whatever, I mean, obviously that's what they're striving for. But along the way, they need to kind of say, this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
So it's a milestone. Yeah, but I mean, you're always striving to write the perfect song, or striving to perfect your craft. Yeah, I don't think you'll ever get there. Yeah, sorry.
Do you still get nervous releasing singles to us? Like, I mean, because you've created this is a piece of you that you're giving out into the world. Do you ever get nervous sending it off?
Well, no, because I'm well aware that 99% of radio stations out there are going to reject it anyway. So I'm quite I'm at peace that that is
Okay.
going to be the that that's going to be the sort of reaction. But ultimately, I'm not really creating music um, to get on radio. I mean, that's always the bonus. If you do, then it means you've kind of hit the sweet spot of creating music that you like, and it somehow has some commercial accessibility. If you hit that junction, then that's gold. But that shouldn't be what you're trying to do it for. It's not
Mm,
some outside validation. Those things come, and if they come, then you go, oh, cool, I nailed it this time. But that's not going to make me feel defeated.
yeah.
I think the success for me is actually just doing it and
Okay.
saying, cool, I set my sights on a project, I completed it, I put it out there, and I have one more album in that I've documented, and that's cool for me. Like one day I can look back and go, sure, I've managed to make 15 albums. I didn't even think I'd get past one.
Yeah.
That's all that really matters. And am I still enjoying that process?
Yeah.
So and if, for the longest time since day dot, it's always I've had autonomy. It hasn't been some label saying, no, you got to write more poppy songs, you got to do it like this. It was on my own what's the word I'm looking for? I had my own creative direction, and yes, sometimes I did go, I'm going to try and write pop songs so that I can get onto radio, and I got it right, and then I'm like, whoa, cool. But that was never, if that was the intent at that time, then cool, but that's not the overarching intent. It's just to be able to create and put stuff out there, and hopefully appeal to some people.
Yeah. It's a very healthy outlook that you have on the music industry. I've got to tell you, like, it's been a while since I've heard someone speak of it so in such a healthy way. Looking at the pros and the cons all and going, well, I mean, they don't really affect me. But I have to ask you about the critics, because obviously you've been around for a while. You've had some critics. You've had some people talking, trolling, ugly things. How do you deal with that? Because I feel like even at this stage of the game, surely it has to like crawl in there somewhere and sit there a little and like bug you to some level, right?
Well, I mean, it did in the early stages. I mean, I never quite understood, why people would spend so much time just being nasty. Why even spend time on something that you don't like? So,
Why even listen?
Yeah. Why give attention to something you don't like?
Yeah.
And then it's generally, most art or most stuff that you put out there is never, it's not from a point of toxicity. Most songs or whatever, they're quite either frivolous, but they're generally about love and hope or dancing on the dance floor. There's no real malice in it, unless you are potentially a political band or
Eminem.
or yeah, sure. Then maybe you can expect to engage in toxicity. Yeah. That's what you're releasing out. So I never understood. Like, we're not releasing toxicity. Why send it back? So it did affect me initially. And look, most artists, whether we portray this or not, feel like imposters, and they have sort of self-doubt on whether they are good enough and whether they can compete with their peers, or whether they even deserve to be on the stage or on radio. So that's always there. And so when you get that critique back, you go, they caught me out. So it's almost perpetuates that doubt that you had. You're like, well, but I think I just learned to kind of go, either it comes from some sort of, jealousy from their side, or they're just cynical people that will probably find fault. They'll see a field of sunflowers and they'll look for the dead one. In fact, it's their lens or their perspective of life in general. It's pretty sad, actually. Yeah. So, and then I think basically going back to what I said earlier, we're not making music to pander or appeal or please a critic. In fact, I even reframed it in another way. I'm like, if we rile up a critic enough to write about something they hate, to actually spend that much effort on it,
winning,
then I've won.
Winning. Yeah.
Like, yes. I need more of that. Yeah. So, and then it's also, if you're not even getting any of that, then maybe you just wallpaper. You just you're unnoticed across the spectrum. So if people love you, there's also people that hate you, and but focus from our side, prefer to focus on the people that appreciate us, and show them that we appreciate them. And I also put it in a lyric, and I think maybe that's the thing as songwriters. I've always said songwriting is kind of our built-in psychologist, or it's this cathartic thing where you can kind of
release
release what you need to release. And at the time when we used to get we used to get a lot of critique, I wrote a line that said, hate seems to shout and praise seems to whisper.
Yep.
So and it was, and I was like, I need to stop looking at the 5 people that are, and they're generally pretty eloquent. So they
and loud.
And loud, yeah. And there's been thousands of people that were saying, "Oh, you guys are awesome," and etc., etc. But my attention are so focused on
always.
Yeah.
We're hardwired, I think, to look for negative. I really do feel like you've got to train your brain and your perspective and how you view the world. And it's a constant battle, because as soon as one negative comment comes in, I think we're hardwired to focus in on that and nitpick that and see what within ourselves could have made that person feel that way. And it's not about us. It's never about us. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about them.
Exactly.
But there is a single that we are hopefully going to make a hot hit. All the Beauty. Tell me about All the Beauty.
Okay, so that was the one song that I did adjust the lyrics to. I changed the first verse to reflect the context that we're going through. So the opening line is, there's a scarecrow standing in the middle of the street, which is a metaphor for COVID. And everyone's playing hide and seek, which is obviously lockdown and us behind our four walls, and seeking the truth. What is this thing? Where did it come from?
Is it real? Is it not real?
How do we cure it? Yeah, all the divisiveness that still exists.
Yeah.
Everyone playing hide. I've had enough, says the man in vain. Every day seems exactly the same. So I think there was this weird honeymoon phase that. At the onset of COVID, where everyone was like, yeah, I'm going to cook and spend time with my family and garden. And then after 3 weeks of that, everyone was like, okay, it's gone now, right? We've built the capacity. And little did we know. Yeah. So
here we are still.
Yeah, but in saying that, it's kind of to say that, as much as the world may seem fractured and as flawed as we are ourselves, as flawed as our potentially our relationships are and our journeys are, there's still a lot of beauty, and often there's beauty in the flaws. and because of the flaws, it's either those things, it's the sink or swim sort of adage. It either breaks you or makes you. But generally, those kind of fractured journeys, or the ones that are filled with hurdles, shape you into hopefully something better. If you get things easy in life, I don't think your learning journey is as substantial.
Agreed.
As one that you have to work a little bit harder for.
Okay, so Kahn, the album is available everywhere. Single is everywhere. Where can we find and follow you, and hopefully see you at some point in the near future?
You can follow me, Kahn Morbee, on all the sort of social media platforms. If you do it on TikTok, you'll be one of 3. And
you have a TikTok?
Well, yeah, I've got 2 posts. I'm doing really well there.
I'm going now to follow you on TikTok.
I have no idea what to do on that platform. I think I've made like maybe 10 or 15 little videos, and then I'm just like, no, I can't.
No, I know. You know what you've just got to post them. You know what? With TikTok, it's like throwing spaghetti at a wall and seeing if it sticks. Really, really. Because like the most stupid videos that you think are like they're not going to, they go massive. And then the ones where you're like, I'm really funny. I'm actually a really funny, cool person. Get 2 views. And you're like, I don't understand.
No, I know. I also don't understand. I mean, yeah, we're living in some bizarre times, but hey, it's interesting. It's fun to play with.
Okay, so go follow Kahn Morbee on TikTok, and let's make him make us content.
Okay,
I'm here for this. Awesome. Kahn,
cool.
Thank you so much for your time.
Are you a drummer?
I grew up playing drums.
Okay.
This is my studio music room workspace, and everything is kind of always in motion in this room. So currently the drum kit is in the corner over there holding a stack of books at this point.
Okay.
The piano is holding the ring light, and as the room moves and as we move from job to job, so does all the stuff. So now those were my grandfathers actually.
Okay, so he was obviously a drummer as well. They look, I mean, I can see the cymbals look old.
Yeah, they're beaten. Yeah.
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 That's what they should be. Yeah, they did their job.
They did their job, yeah. But Kahn, thank you so much for your time. Genuinely, this was awesome. And good luck with everything, and take care.
Awesome. Yeah, you too. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Jacaranda FM.